Hello there, and welcome to The Meaningful Stitch. This is episode 33, and I'm Amy Palko, and I'm coming to you from Edinburgh, Scotland, and this is my digital home from home, a place where I get to share with you my knitting practice and my knitting projects. Now, if you have been here before, you might recognise what is behind me. This is the shawl wall, and I have a couple of episodes where I talk you through all of these shawls and some more besides. But I don't normally record in front of it. Normally I'm through in our guest room, which is currently being used by my daughter because she has got a job in Edinburgh and so she's having to commute. So she's using our guest bedroom for a couple of nights a week. And she is still doing her kilts, and if you want to see an interview with her all about her kilt making, you can go and see that. I'll link it below. But she now has a job in video gaming, which is what her degree is in. So we're super pleased for her. But it does mean that we are now relegated out of the guest bedroom for our recording. And so I thought I would record it here with this beautiful backdrop instead. Some things, however, are still the same, so you'll still find all the show notes in the description box below. More detailed show notes can be found on my Patreon, which you can subscribe to, and that will give you 24-hour early access to these videos, as well as other things besides. A slightly new thing, however, is that I now have a Ko-fi link, so if you don't want to subscribe to a Patreon, you can actually donate to the channel through the Ko-fi link, and that is also in the description box below. Okay, one other thing that's staying the same is we're drawing a card. So we always draw an oracle card at the beginning of each episode, and today this card comes from this beautiful oracle deck called the Goddess Oracle, and it's by Amy Sophia Marashinsky, and it is a really beautiful deck. People quite often ask me what goddess deck I think they should start with, and I always recommend this one because it's a really beautiful one. So the card that I drew for us today, the goddess, is this one here, and it's Amaterasu, and rather appropriately we can hardly see her because she's shining so brightly. She is a Japanese Shinto goddess of the sun. And the story that we have for Amaterasu is that she retreats from the world, from the chaos, from the violence, and removes her light and retreats into a cave. She withdraws from the world. And then she's gradually enticed back out, partially by the goddess Uzume, who makes a big kerfuffle and makes everybody laugh, and that attracts Amaterasu's attention. And when Amaterasu comes out of the cave, she catches sight of herself in a beautiful mirror that the gods have displayed for her, and she's reflected back her own light. And while she's dazzled by that, the gods roll a stone behind her so she can't get back into the cave. So I think she's such an interesting goddess for our times because she really speaks to the desire to withdraw, or certainly we've gone through a lot of lockdowns, and so I think we can really associate or really understand that feeling of needing to pull back and feel a little bit more introverted against this kind of call to move back out into the world. And I think the beautiful Amaterasu is certainly a goddess that calls us out to shine our light. And so that's my invitation to you all today, my loves, is to shine your light beautifully. And I've got a reading at the end of this episode that really reinforces that invitation. But before we get to that point, we have so much knitting. I'm absolutely surrounded. So let's get to all of that. What am I wearing? Well, I am wearing the Cinnabar Shawl, and this is a beautiful shawl by Andrea and Mowry that I have knitted up using a Crazy Zauberball by Shopplevol, and it's in the shade Orangerie, and Drops Nepal, which is in the shade Grape, and that's an alpaca wool blend. The Shopplevol Crazy Zauberball, I think, is 100% wool, although it might be a wool nylon blend now I think about it. But what you also might notice is I'm wearing this, which is this incredibly beautiful shawl cuff. And I'll show you mine. I'll take it off so you can have a closer look. It's got these gorgeous feathers on it. Isn't it absolutely gorgeous? This is a shawl cuff by the maker Snowy Thistle Knits, who is Jo. Hi, Jo. And Jo has very generously given me this beautiful shawl cuff and she's given me 2 to give away to you. So I'm going to show you them. This is the first one, the flowers, and this is the second one. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? They're so gorgeous. So there we go. There's both of them. There, and there's mine. Now, I would really encourage that you go and check out Jo's website so you can see the full range of her designs, and she's also got some lovely shawl patterns and accessory patterns too, so you can go check those out. But to win one of these shawl cuffs, I'm going to ask you to like this video, make sure that you're subscribed, and leave a comment. And the comment should be something about shawls, because I think we're really moving into shawl season now, where we really want to feel all nice and snuggly. Tell me what you love best about a shawl. Tell me about the shawl that's currently on your needles. Tell me about the shawl that you want to be on your needles and that you're really looking forward to casting on. Or tell me about the shawl that you've gifted to somebody. Just make sure that it's a comment about shawls, because that's that feels all too appropriate for a giveaway for these beautiful shawl cuffs. So that's the giveaway. I will announce the winners in the next episode. But this is my shawl that I'm wearing today, and I'll just take it off so you can have a slightly closer look. As I said, this is the Cinnabar by Andrea Mowry. I really love these gradient colour shifting yarns that really look so interesting and so beautiful. And the thing about this Cinnabar shawls, of course, you've got this brioche section, and then you've got this really interesting garter section. Because if you've knitted brioche before, you'll know that you knit every row twice, and then you knit on the back as well twice. So when you get to the end of one row, you're pushing all your stitches back to the beginning of the row to knit that row again in your second colour. Well, this section here is created by knitting and purling those rows twice, so it creates this really interesting texture, which I think really offsets the brioche really beautifully. And of course, with 2-colour brioche, you always have a right side and a wrong side, but really both sides are equally beautiful, and that's the technically wrong side, although I don't know, sometimes I think I like it better. So there we go, that's the Cinnabar Shawl by Andrea Mowry. It's a great big snuggly hug of a shawl. I absolutely love it. And it's perfect for right now because it is really getting quite cold here. I'm not sure whether it is particularly cold or whether it's just because we've been so warm for so long that that now that the weather has started to shift, it's really feeling pretty chilly and it's very damp. So something like this is just perfect. Underneath, you might have seen that I am wearing my Manus by Yamagara, and I'm going to stand up so that you can see it. I have very creaky floorboards in my bedroom, so I'm just warning you now, you may hear them as I'm getting up and getting down, but here we are. This is the Manus by Yamagara. Isn't it beautiful? Look at, you can see the points on the chevrons. This top part here is knitted in Drops Kidsilk in the colour Rust, and this bit here is knitted in British wool and in the colour Burgundy, and I have a whole cone of that which I'll mention it a little bit later on, but yes, this lower part here. This is the third time I've knitted this pattern. The first one I've knitted slightly too small. It does still fit, but it doesn't have the same amount of positive ease that this one does. The second one I knitted in this size, but in a thicker mohair that had an acrylic content in it. And so the shoulders stick out like this, and it's far too boxy and big, and it doesn't really sit properly. But this one, finally, it's like the Goldilocks Manus. This one is just right. I got there eventually, and that's nothing to do with the pattern at all, because Yamagara's patterns, oh my goodness, they are some of my absolute favourites. So it's nothing to do with the pattern at all. This is entirely user error. But I'm so pleased to finally have a manus that I really love and I really love to wear. So really pleased about that. So that's what I'm wearing. What's off my needles? Well, in my last episode I mentioned that my two main finished objects would be in a separate video, which was my Hobbii yarn review. And my hope was that the Hobbii yarn review would come out at the same time as the episode. And of course it didn't. So the best laid plans, hey? So instead it came out, I think, the following Monday. So quite a few days after the last episode went out. So it did go up finally, but I just want to show you both of those finished objects just now. But if you do want more details about that, please do go and watch my Hobbii yarn review, and I will leave a link to that also in the show notes. So the first thing I'll show you is this, and it's my Pink Fizz. And this is in Hobbie's alpaca silk and soft alpaca lace held together. It is a beautiful jumper. I bought this pattern as soon as it came out because I loved it so much. It's also by Andrea Mowry, who is one of my favourite, particularly sweater designers actually, because I find her sizes really fit me well. So normally I knit a size 3, but I decided on this occasion I was going to knit a size 4 because I really wanted this kind of boxy fit. I was going for effortlessly elegant. I think I did okay. I think it is quite elegant, particularly with this amazing lace panel that runs on either side up the front and on the back. It has a split hem where the back is slightly longer than the front. You can see that there. And it has this beautiful 3-needle bind off seam on the shoulder connecting the two lace panels, which I really like. I think that's really beautiful. The fabric itself is incredibly warm and very drapey. You can see the slightly marled look that's been created by holding those two different yarns together. The yarn was an absolute dream to knit with. I really enjoyed it. The soft alpaca lace goes a really long way. I had originally ordered 9 balls, I think, of the alpaca silk and 4 of the soft alpaca lace, and I think I used 7 of the I think I used just under 7 balls of the soft alpaca, no sorry, of the alpaca silk, and maybe about 2.5 balls of the soft alpaca lace. So I did have quite a bit left over. It didn't use the amount that was specified in the pattern, but that's fine. It means I've got a little bit extra to do something else with, and I do have plans for it, which I won't share with you today because they're long distance plans, but they will be coming up at some point. But it's a beautiful pattern. I don't really understand why it's called the Pink Fizz, because I think a lot of people then confuse it with Andrea Mowry's Pink Velvet, and they're very different designs. Really, I'm now thinking of this more as my Ginger Fizz, or Cinnamon Fizz? Ginger Fizz, I think. So this is my Ginger Fizz. That's not the name, it is Pink Fizz. But there we go. That's one finished object that was completed for the Hobbii yarn review. And like I said, if you want to find out more about that, more about the yarn, more about the costs involved, you can go and check out the separate video. The other item that I knitted for the Hobbii yarn review was this. And this is my incredibly beautiful Suriously Holey, and it's knitted in Dream Colour and Evergreen Organic. The Evergreen Organic is this lovely sagey green colour, which really does not come across on the screen, and I do not understand. I've tried to take photographs of it, I've tried to show it on video, it just will not show as the actual colour because it's a lot, I certainly see it as a lot greener, and it presents on the screen as more grey, but it really is a sage green. And then on the other side we have this Dream Colour, which is one of those long gradient colours. It's 100% wool, which I love. I think it's 100% non-superwash wool as well. In fact, all of the yarns that I chose from Hobbii were natural fibres. I was under the impression, I think, that Hobbii mostly did acrylic bases, and they do a lot of acrylic bases, but they do also have some really lovely 100% natural fibres. So I really wanted to knit with those and see what they were like, and I really was pretty impressed, because I think all in all, this shawl, the cost of this shawl would be just over £50 in materials, but I think it's created a really powerful and dramatic effect. I said on the review that it kind of reminds me of when petrol is spilled on wet tarmac. So this is my petrol rainbow shawl. I have been wearing it quite a lot actually. I got a new to me leather jacket from Armstrong's, which is an amazing vintage clothing shop, complete institution in Edinburgh. In Victoria Street, in the Grassmarket at the bottom of Victoria Street. And I got a kind of like an 80s boxy kind of bomber style leather jacket, and I've been wearing that quite a lot with this lovely shawl, although really it's not been cold enough to wear that until really this week. So I've been wearing it and getting really, really very warm, but I don't think that's going to be a problem moving forwards. So anyway, that is my Suriously Holey. It's by Stephen West, the design. The yarn is by Hobbii. To find out all the details, check out the Hobbii yarn review. Okay, so I do have some finished objects that you will not have seen before. Now, the first one I'm going to share with you is my daughter's half and half wrap. And I'm going to be careful in how I show it to you, because I don't know if you noticed in the last episode, the more observant of you may have, but I mentioned that I have an allergic response to this particular colourway from Holst Super Soft. I have knitted a lot with Holst Super Soft, and I will show you actually some other projects today that I've knitted with Holst Super Soft, but my nose is even starting to itch just as I'm thinking about it. Maybe it's psychosomatic, I don't know. But my nose gets incredibly itchy when I handle this particular colourway, which is Slow, from Holst Super Soft. And I was showing it off on the podcast last episode, and after I showed it off, my nose got itchier and itchier and itchier. I tried so hard not to keep itching my nose while I was recording, but it was really, really uncomfortable. So I'm going to be really careful. I have properly washed this all now. I've given it to my daughter. She's wearing it every day. She's not having this reaction. I had no idea why I'm having this. I don't have it to any other colours or any other yarn, actually. So I really don't understand what's going on with that, but this is the half and half. So it is completed. This is the Slow colourway. This is the one that I'm having the issues with, and this colour here is in Robin's Egg, I think it's called. Is it Robin's Egg? Yes, I think it is Robin's Egg, because it does look like a robin's egg, because if you get up close you'll see that it's one of these heathered colourways, and there's lots of different colours in it, and it is stunning. Now, the majority of this knitting, as I mentioned last time, was done by my best friend Jen, who very kindly took on the project after I developed this allergic response. And so I'd knitted maybe about 60 rows, and she knitted most of the rest, and then she gave it back to me when I had about 60 rows left to do of this robin's egg. And actually, while I was working on the robin's egg, it was absolutely fine. It was only when I showed it on the podcast and I was holding it up to my face, this colour up to my face and handling it, that I developed the allergic response again. So anyway, I've given it to my daughter. She's been wearing it pretty much constantly, and she came down the other night there, and I asked her if she would bring it down with her and to leave it with me so I could show it to all of you. But I did have to swap her a shawl, so she's gone off with my Starflake for just now, and then we'll swap back because she gets very cold. So she's all bundled up in the Starflake just now. So, but that is her half and half triangles wrap. by Pearl Soho. It's a free pattern. Everybody has heard of this by now. In fact, this is another one here, which I've knitted in the Pearl Soho linen quill, which is lovely and soft. And this, of course, is in the whole super soft, it is a more rustic yarn than the linen quill, certainly, but it is a mix of merino and Shetland. So I love whole super soft, so I'm really quite disappointed that I've had this reaction to this colour, because I love this colour. But there we go. What can you do? So yes, it's a free pattern by Pearl Soho. They have actually just come out recently with a 6 colour half and half triangles wrap pattern, so you can go through your stash, which I think I'm going to do, and pull out some possibilities and have a bit of a play with putting together some of those to make a striped half and half. So I'm definitely thinking that's gonna be a project. And in fact, I was just watching the Creabea podcast with Rebecca, and she has treated herself to some linen quill, and she's going to be knitting one as well. So maybe we'll end up with a knit night cal where we're all casting on our half and halves. We'll see if some of the others are interested in casting one on too. So there we go. That's the half and half triangles wrap. The next thing that I have for you is a very little thing, and it's this. It's this Sophie scarf by Petite Knit. I have yet to find a bandwagon that I don't like to jump on. So everybody is knitting these little scarves, and I didn't really get it, to be honest. But I decided I was going to use this lovely little 50-gram skein of Malabrigo that I got. And it's Malabrigo Mora, so it's 100% silk, and it's in the colourway Archangel. That's it. And I just really like it. I think it was really fun to knit. I did have a bit of an issue with it because I stupidly I did weigh it, but I obviously didn't weigh my yarn properly, and so I ran out of yarn before I got to the end, which meant I had to rip it back to the bit before the decreases began and then start again, and now I've ended up with a little bit more yarn left over than I wanted to. But what can you do? I was obviously just having one of those. I have been having one of those weeks. But there we go. This is the beautiful Sophie scarf. It's just a very little ascot. If you watch the Caddy Jacks Knits podcast, you'll see that they've got a cal running called How Do You Ascot, and it's so that you can join in if you're attending or even not attending Rhinebeck. I will not be attending Rhinebeck. One day I really, really, really want to go, maybe next year. I was thinking that 2020 was going to be the year, but you know how that worked out. So maybe I won't say that I'll be there next year. We'll just see. I'll be there when I'm there. But in the meantime, I get to join in vicariously, and I have knitted myself this beautiful little ascot, this Sophie scarf, in this beautiful shade of Archangel. And I will just take it off so you can have a little bit of a closer look. The I-cord edges are so neat, and look at the variegation in that hand-dyed yarn. It is just beautiful. I'm really pleased with it. So there we go. That's my Sophie scarf. I held my yarn double to get a DK weight, and I think I ended up doing my decreases after I'd increased to 28, which I think is the small size. So this is the small one. But there we go. I've looked out some more yarn to do some other ones, because I think it's actually a very good way to use up some of your stash. So I will probably cast on a few more of these. I think they would be really lovely Christmas gifts, and I certainly know a few women in my life who I think would really like these. So I might produce some of them for Christmas gifts. So there we go. That's a Sophie scarf. And I have one more finished object. Who am I? Here is the Felix. This is the Felix Cardigan. I have knitted, and it's a pattern by Amy Christophers, who is Savoury Knitting, and it is this beautiful raglan cardigan, I've knitted mine in quite an oversize. I think it's meant to be an oversize one actually, but it's for me it's probably about 6 inches of positive ease. You create your raglan shaping with these beautiful eyelet lace design, which honestly is so easy and so intuitive. Once you've got it and you've got your stitch markers in place, then it's just very easy. It's absolutely TV knitting. I have held my Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk in the colour Pink Sand, and I've held it single, apart from the cuffs, the neckband, the button bands, and the hem. There are some people talking in my stairway. I live in a tenement flat, so sound tends to echo. So I'm hoping that you can't hear them. But if you can, I apologise. I'm just going to keep going, because if I stopped every time somebody went up and down the stairs, I would be... we'd never get through this, folks. We'd never get through it. So the reason why I held the yarn double is because I wanted to create a little bit more structure, because the alpaca is incredibly drapey. It's very, very soft. It's really fluffy. It's really light. It's really warm, but it doesn't have any structure to it whatsoever. So holding the yarn double has kind of created a little bit of a thicker fabric, just where I think you need a little bit more of stability, particularly on something like the button band, which is holding its integrity pretty well there, I think. So I will put it on so you can see. I'm just going to put it on over the top of the mohair. Mohair. If I expire from the heat, you'll know why. Brushed alpaca on top of mohair. So you'll see that, like I said, it really is quite an oversized cardigan on me. I could have absolutely have knitted the smaller one, but I'm really pleased with how it's worked out actually. I think it's exactly what I wanted. So I'll stand up to show you. So this is my, oh gosh, I just can't keep, I just want to hug myself. Is that okay? It is just so lovely. I'm really pleased with it. It's very, like I said, it's very soft, it's very warm, but it's also very light. I had a little bit of an issue with the cuffs. When I got to the end of the sleeves and I did the cuff, it was really gaping. And I prefer a cuff that's a little bit more fitted to my wrist. So I kind of measured how many stitches, like how much here is excess that I wanted to get rid of, and then I counted how many stitches that was, and then I ripped it back, and then I reduced by that number of stitches before starting the cuff again. So I think I reduced by 7 stitches. So basically I knitted 4 and then knitted 2 together the whole way round until I'd gotten rid of 7 stitches. And then I could start doing this, doing my double-stranded cuffs. So I'm really pleased with how that worked out. And I'm really pleased with my buttons. Now, I put out a little call on Instagram asking about where people found their buttons from, because I couldn't find any buttons. So I know that Ginger Twist has some buttons, some beautiful buttons. So I was gonna pop in there. And I know that John Lewis in Edinburgh has some buttons. I'm going to take this off because it's very warm. But I was wondering, like, online, where do people buy their buttons from? And actually one of the places that people came back and said, well, one was Etsy, and I'd already looked on Etsy. And another one was a place called Textile Garden. I didn't actually end up going to Textile Garden, although that was completely my plan, because my best friend lent me her button box, and I went through it and found these gorgeous buttons in her button box. And this is the same friend that knitted the half and half, I should say. Hi, Jen. Happy birthday. So yes, she lent me these, she gave me these buttons out of her button box, and I really love how they look. I think they are kind of like this sandy sort of peachy shade, which I think works very well with the colour of the yarn. So I'm really pleased with how this is worked out, although the fibres are now going up my nose. But there we go. No more nose scratching. So there we go. That is the Felix, and it is my last for today completed object, which then takes me on to what's on my needles. So what you probably noticed was not considered a finished object, and which I had intended to finish before now, is the Lord of the Isles kilt socks in black. So you'll see I've got a fair amount done on this one anyway. This, I have all of the beautiful cable detail, which of course is really hard for you to see in black. Trust me, it's really hard for me to see as well, which is what has contributed to the length of time that this has taken. But I am up to the ribbed cuff for these, and on the other one, unfortunately, what's going on here? Unfortunately, I made a mistake in the increases for the calf, and then I also made them, which I tried to fix, and then I also made a mistake in the cable, which at that point I decided I was just going to rip it all back, and I was going to do the leg again. So I had about another 4 cable repeats on top of this when I ripped it back. So that was a bit painful. And it did mean then that there was absolutely no chance of finishing these for my son's 21st birthday, which happened earlier this week and which we celebrated at the weekend. I'll tell you more about that later. But he turned 21, and so we had purchased a kilt for him, and my family all chipped in to buy all the other parts and pieces to go for it along with his outfit, and these are his kilt hose which will complete his outfit. Now, as it actually turns out, the mill that my daughter was going to buy the fabric from, the tartan from, for his kilt, has not actually produced the particular tartan that he wanted, and so that's going to be coming into stock now. So she's going to be starting making his kilt this month. So everything is delayed, so I don't feel quite so bad that the kilt socks are not going to be ready, because let's face it, he's not going to wear his kilt socks without the kilt. So so these are knitted up in West Yorkshire Spinners Essential DK, which is a discontinued brand line. Unfortunately, West Yorkshire Spinners are no longer producing it. I think they are still doing their Essential 4-ply, but not now their Essential DK, which is a shame, because it's a really good DK sock yarn, very sturdy. I've knitted another pair of kilt socks in these for my older son, who turned 21 a couple of years ago, and I did those in tartan green. And then last year I knitted this same sock pattern for my daughter's partner, and she had made him a kilt, and so I knitted him a pair of kilt hose from Socks, Coop Socks, yeah, DK. I'm not sure that's right. I think maybe those need to be rearranged. Those words need to be rearranged in a different order. But yes, I knitted a pair in those as well. So I am just going to keep cracking on with these. I am going to get these complete, because it's I feel like it's the last piece of knitting that I need to do this year that there's some kind of demand on it, you know, and or I've promised it to somebody, and so I really want to get it done. I really want them off the needles. I may end up having to knit another pair next year. Basically, I just knit one really large pair of men's socks once a year with cable detail in dark colours. So no wonder I don't like knitting socks out, because that's my impression of what socks are. So I will crack on with that. This, I should say actually, this beautiful bag here I was gifted by Ragnarsdottir. It is absolutely beautiful. There's our card. It's Gudrun. There we go. And it's a really lovely, beautifully well-made bag, and it is housing my kilt socks, or my son's kilt socks. We'll get through it. We will get through it. While I was supposed to be knitting on that, I really cannot knit on that in the evening. I have tried, and clearly it didn't work because I made mistakes and had to rip it back. So, in the meantime, I have been working instead on this. And yes, it is another Felix, but it's a Felix Pullover rather than the Felix, in fact it goes that way around, instead of the Felix Cardigan. I am knitting this in Nutiden Tunet, Tunet. As always, their colourways are produced once and then never again, but Tunet apparently means yard, as in a shared communal outdoor space. I really love this. I love knitting with it. I love the design of it. I think it's going to be, well, Casey from Young Folks Knits talked about it being like a bougie sweatshirt. This is my bougie sweatshirt. I'm holding it double with this yarn here. Oh, hang on a second. I've actually got the plate of it. Let me show it to you properly. So Nutiden is by a company called Honor och Air, which is Swedish, Caroline and Knut, and they produce just this most amazing unspun yarn. You'll have seen it on lots of other podcasters' episodes, I'm sure, channels, but it is a really beautiful yarn. It's very soft, it's very fragile, it comes apart really easily. You do have to develop a more gentle way of knitting, and it certainly has slowed me down. Not a bad thing, particularly when you've been feeling a little bit frustrated with your knitting because you're knitting black cabled socks. So I've been knitting this in the evenings when I cannot see the socks anymore, and I've been holding it double with Holstgarn Titicaca in the colour Eucalyptus. So that's the two colours together. And I'll show you the fabric again that they're making because it is really beautiful. There we go. Isn't that just gorgeous? And I cannot explain to you how incredibly soft this is. If you have only ever encountered unspun yarn through the Plotalopi, then Nutiden is, well, certainly this plate of Nutiden is significantly softer. I think it is actually a merino blend, a merino crossbreed that this particular fibre is, and it is so soft and so bouncy. I am using one strand of Nutiden, and this is because it was actually gifted to me by a lovely viewer, Marion, hi, and she sent me just under 300 grams of this Nutiden. So I decided that I was going to hold it one strand Nutiden and one strand the Holst Titicaca in order to create a very lightweight but warm sweatshirt, basically. Fancy bougie sweatshirt with a little bit of lace eyelet detail. So yes, that's what I'm knitting in the evenings, and it is bringing me a lot of comfort. And is exactly what I need when it's getting dark at night, and it's getting dark a lot earlier right now. So I did have a little bit of an honest whip review on Instagram yesterday. So I shared that I had a couple of whips that, you know, obviously I am working on, like the Felix and the Lord of the Isles socks. They will get finished. And actually had another couple of projects that I really wasn't feeling a lot of love for. And one was the Striped S-Jan by Stephen West. And I was knitting it in 2 shades of Drops Nord. And I was going to use some Drops Kidsilk for the lacy section. But then I didn't like the colour of the Kidsilk that I'd chosen to pair with it. I then ripped it back, I chose a different one out of my stash, I tried that, I didn't like it. And then actually I just had a really honest conversation with myself, which was basically, do I really need this? Do I really want it? And if I don't, then why am I persisting with it? I had originally cast it on because I was attending an astrology workshop, and I do a lot of astrology as part of my everyday work. So I'd attended this workshop and I wanted something garter stitch to knit on, and obviously none of my projects were like that, so I needed something just really straightforward. I chose that. I put together a project really quickly and sat down and listened to the lectures, participated in the groups sessions, and worked on this shawl. So it absolutely served the purpose that I needed it to, and it gave me something to work on during this particular event. But I'm not really that sold on the product. And I should say, this is not because of the shawl design. I love the shawl design. I have, where is it? So this is a good thing about being in front of my shawl wall, is I can show you the shawls that I'm talking about. This is my striped S-Jan, which I absolutely love and cannot get enough of. But then my colours are really coherent. I really love the colours that I've knitted this in. It's got a real story moving through it, and then finishing off with this Ching fibre mohair that I've held with a lace weight single ply merino from Cowgirl Blues, to really kind of give the lace a little bit more stability and body. I love this and I wear it all the time. Well, not through the summer, obviously, because that would be ridiculous. But most of the time in Scotland, it's not that warm. So it does get a huge amount of wear. So it's not that I don't love the pattern. It's also not that I don't love the yarn, because I do really love the drop snored. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I have broken up 2 sweater quantities of drop snored in order to knit this shawl. Do I want it enough to have done that? And the answer was no. I would rather reclaim the yarn and knit myself two jumpers out of the yarn rather than one shawl. So that is gone. That is no more. I ripped it out the other day there. The other whip that I have ripped is, or frogged, is my Ripple Camisole that I was knitting in Woolyknit British Wool Burgundy Cone, which I had mentioned earlier because it's what I knitted this in. So this is what it looks like. The yarn, it is glorious yarn. I love this cone. I desperately want to use it for something beautiful, and instead I picked this camisole, which I really like the look of, but the 3x3 rib it doesn't suit my knitting style. It's not intuitive in the way that I find 1x1 rib, or sometimes even 2x2 rib. 3x3 seems to really throw me off, and it means that rather than it being a mindless knit, I have to concentrate on it, but it's a really boring knit. So, and this is nothing to say about the design or, the beauty of it, which obviously, is what attracted me to doing it in the first place. It just doesn't suit my knitting style. It is not a comfortable knit, and I'm not enjoying it. And there's no joy to be found for me in persisting with a knitted project that is boring and difficult. It's not even difficult. It just requires concentration. So I ripped that all out. I actually got maybe about 6 inches of 3x3 rib done, and I was just done. I was just done. So it's gone. The other whip that you probably haven't seen for a little while is the Melting Marl blanket. That is still something that I want to complete. So I will be persisting with that, and you will probably see more of that as we move into the winter period, because it is a blanket project I think really suits well over the colder months. So I'll be persisting with that, and that's a Stephen West pattern. And I'm using a lot of scrap yarn, but I'm trying to kind of create a fade. So we'll see if it works. And then the other project that I am going to persist with, but which you probably won't see again for quite a long time, is the Long Summer Cardi. It was always a big investment of time because it is knitted in 4-ply and it is a long cardigan. I think, it comes down to sort of the backs of mid-thigh. So it's a large project. And part of it is knitted in twisted rib, of course, which takes a little bit of time too. I have completed up to under the arms, I think. I love it, and I will not wear it over winter. I will not wear it probably over spring, maybe late spring. So that's when I'm going to pick it back up again. It's going into hibernation, and that's completely fine. It can sit in hibernation for a while, and I will bring it back out again when it's when the weather warms back up and I'm feeling all light and summery again. So those are the main whips that I have either still working on, committing to, ripped back, hibernating. So that's my full whip review. And I don't have anything else on the needles, which feels good. I did really believe at one point that I was a monogamous knitter, and I think maybe I was a monogamous knitter at one point, but now I'm definitely not. But I don't like to have many projects on the needles, and it felt really good to look at everything very clearly and to make some honest decisions. And actually having slept on those decisions and then woken up the next morning gone, yeah, this is the right thing to do, it felt really good to rip them out and to reclaim the yarn, because I know that I'm going to use those yarn for projects that really do make my heart sing. And that's what I really want my making practice to be about. So that's where I'm at with my whips. But what's next on my needles? Now that you've ripped back a couple of projects, Amy, what are you going to cast on? Well, I can show you this. This is my swatch that I did yesterday. If you watch the Creabea podcast, you will know that Rebecca has been working really hard on her first pattern and on her first design, and it is incredibly beautiful. It's called the Cargill sweater. You should absolutely go and check it out on Ravelry. In fact, when I checked it, I think it was #1 in the hot right now. So that just goes to show how incredibly well loved this pattern already is. It's a beautiful textured design which is created with this dip stitch and a little bit of ribbing. And the dip stitch is actually really pretty intuitive to do, and I would recommend doing the swatch, because I certainly found that I was beginning to get a rhythm going with the dip stitch, and so I'm glad that I had this opportunity to practice that on my swatch. I am using, and I don't think I've got it through with me, so I'll need to show it to you in the tails. That's not very good, is it? I'm using this beautiful Holst Super Soft in Viola. No itchy nose, incidentally. In Viola, and I'm holding it double with this Drops Kidsilk in Lavender. They are a beautiful combination together. And I've decided that this is going to be my birthday jumper this year. Every year I like to knit myself a birthday jumper. I generally knit it over October because my birthday is at the beginning of November. So I like to have a new jumper for my birthday. I was going to be knitting the floaty cardigan from the Dreamscape issue of Pom Pom, which I absolutely love and do really still intend to knit. But I had the yarn for this, and I don't have some of the yarn that I still need to get for the floaty cardigan. So the floaty cardigan is still going to be made. Maybe that will be my Christmas knit, but this is going to be my birthday knit. I love this colour. I think I really suit it. As you can see, I've also got this in the Kinross lace base from Wee County Yarns. So it's quite a similar shade to that. And I've also used this Viola in some other shawl patterns, shawl designs as well. So it's a colour that will fit easily into my wardrobe, but it's one that I think in this design will just look absolutely heavenly. So do go and check out the Creabea podcast. Do go and watch Rebecca tell you all about the creation of this beautiful design. Then go and check it out on Ravelry if Ravelry is available to you, and you know, give it a favourite, pop it in your queue, create a project for it and cast one on, because this fabric is just divine. The other thing you can actually do is go onto Instagram and check out the hashtag Cargill sweater, and then you'll see all the testers' versions, because there are so many beautiful ones already out there in the world, and there are some interesting modifications around the neckline. So if you don't like a folded neckline and you don't like something being so close up to your neck, there's an option there for, well, somebody has modified it for a I-cord, which has created a slightly more open neck, and somebody else has opted not to fold the neck, and so it's a slightly higher neck. So if you like to have that feeling of being really sort of embraced by your jumper, then there's a couple of different modifications there already. So, and I'm sure there'll be more to come, because this is I think there's going to be a lot of people knitting this, and knitters are so inventive and really good at being able to create garments and pieces that they love and which suit their style. So the more and more of these we see out in the world, I imagine we're going to see more people doing wonderful things with it. So that, there we go. That is the Cargill sweater, and it's by Rebecca Clow of the Creabea podcast. Gorgeous. So that is what's next on my needles. My swatch is actually still a little bit damp. But I'm showing it to you anyway, because you can't tell that it's damp unless I tell you, which I now have. So that's what's next on my needles. But the other thing that's going to be next on my needles, of course, is the Stephen West MCAL Twists and Turns, which starts on the 6th of October. I am so excited. Are you excited? I thought I would show you again my yarn, because I can show it to you all together. So I'm going to make a little bit of noise as I take this out of the plastic. I keep all of my yarn in these IKEA bags, which I think are for freezers or for food, but I keep them all in these because I just want to make sure that they're pest free. In my last property we had a big problem with moths. I don't have that problem, fortunately. As you can see, I've got all the shawls out here. If I did have a moth problem, trust me, they would all be straight in these IKEA bags. But yes, I keep them all in these IKEA bags, and that's how I stash my stash. But I will show you the yarns that I'm going to be knitting my twists and turns with. So we need to have a main colour, and mine is this Olan, which is in the colour Amber, and then a contrast colour, and this is Grubby Pink by Stranded, and this is Nervous Fibre in the colour Shiver, and this is a merino linen single. The rest are merino singles. Losing it there. This is the Amber. This is the Grubby Pink. Now you'll see the Grubby Pink has got these beautiful speckles which match really, really well with my Amber. And then we add in the Shiver. And I think what starts to appear, for me certainly, is the suggestion of copper. You know, we've got these kind of coppery tones here, and then the patina of copper. So I'm really loving this combination. I am going to be caking up my skeins in the next few days, and I'm going to be getting it all ready for it. I won't probably knit a swatch. I will use the suggested needle size. That's what I always do. It usually works out just fine. So that's what I'm going to do. But I thought, actually, seeing as I am here in front of my shawl wall, that I would show you the two previous shawls for the Stephen West MCAL. So the first one that I'm going to show you today is this, which was the Slip Stravaganza. And I knitted it in Whole Super Soft, and you'll see it's in these colours Straw, this is Scots Pine, this is Amethyst, and this colour here is Scarab. I use one strand of Whole Super Soft. I find that it really blooms and puffs up when you get rid of the spinning oil and the excess dye that is in the yarn when you purchase it. People have asked me about bleeding, about whether the whole super soft bleeds. I've never found it to bleed, and I have knitted white and red in colour work together, and I popped a colour catcher in with it, and the colour catcher didn't even capture any excess dye. So there was no bleeding at all. So that's not to say it will never happen, it's just to say I've not experienced it. The way in which I treat the whole super soft when I'm washing it is to have some warm water. I use Eucalan as my wool wash because I'm a little bit lazy and I don't like rinsing it out. So and I add a little bit of the Eucalan. I then pop the shawl or the garment or whatever it is that I've knitted in the whole super soft in, and I swish it around in the water, and pretty quickly the water will turn a ghastly colour. And so then I drain that water, I refill it with warm water, and I repeat the process. And I don't add more and more Eucalan, I just add the Eucalan with the first wash. And I just keep changing the water until it finally runs clear. Yeah, and it's sitting in clear water, and then I leave it sitting for about 20 minutes. And then I take it out and squeeze out as much water as I can, roll it up in a towel, stomp along the length of it, and then I pin it out on my blocking mat using wires and pins. So there we go. That's how I treat my whole super soft for washing and blocking purposes, and I've never had a problem. It really does soften up. If you are concerned about the softness of whole super soft, then you might want to try a little bit of it and knit it up as a swatch, and then treat it as I just described, and then see what difference the fabric is like. I quite often, if I've got a yarn that makes a big change in the washing and blocking process, then I will keep that swatch in my project bag along with my project, because sometimes I'll get a little bit of a wobble and I'll go, maybe this yarn isn't going to work because I don't think it is going to be soft enough, or I don't think it is going to have the structure or the properties that I'm looking for. And then I can reassure myself by giving my swatch a little squeeze. So anyway, that was the MCAL from 2 years ago. The one from last year was Shawlography, and this is my version of that one. Now you can see this is the colour Viola that I am knitting the Cargill jumper in, and I bought a cone of that because unfortunately that colour was being discontinued, and so when I saw that I panicked and I bought and I bought one. In fact, I think they also discontinued the amethyst, and I panicked and I bought a cone of that as well. So I have a lot of this dark purple and I have a lot of this light purple. I also bought a cone of this colour here, which is brandy. There is more straw and scarab here as well, and this colour here is very dark red, is jasper, which looks quite similar to the, will I hold it up again? I'll hold it away from my face, but I'll hold it. It is quite similar. That's the sloe, that's the jasper. But I didn't have any problems at all with the jasper, so there obviously is something quite specific to the sloe. This was quite, I think this pattern really kind of split people's opinions, which is fine. It's fine to have different opinions, it's fine to have different aesthetics. I love the MCAL because it always takes me out of my comfort zone. It always teaches me something new. I learn something every time I knit one of Stephen West's patterns. It is basically like getting a free workshop. Well, not a free workshop because you pay for the pattern, but you pay for the pattern and then you get all of this video tutorial support on YouTube. And so he talks you through how to do all of the stitches. So even if you are a beginner knitter, I think you could still really make a good go of this. I think because he shows you how to do everything, and it's all really close up, and he'll also vary the way in which he knits. So he'll show you how to do it as a continental knitter, but he'll also show you how to do it as a thrower. So yes, that was the shawlography. I added a fringe. I'll just show you what it looks like on, because I love it. I love a fringe. There we go. So that was mine. I was actually very kindly sent another shawlography, actually from the same lovely lady that sent me the Nutiden in the same package. Marion sent me her shawlography, but just because she didn't think that she would wear it. I'm pretty sure this is also Hall Super Soft, and it's in this beautiful monochrome version. So I think it really shows you, you know, just how incredibly different one version can be from another just by choosing a different set of colours. And you can really make it your own. You know, you can really choose the colours that you feel very strongly about or that you really love. And then I think you can't help but end up with a pattern that, you know, a design, a shawl that brings you a lot of joy. But there you go. There you go. You can see the two different colorways, two different shawls. So I just thought I would show you those because they were all knitted in Hall Super Soft. Both my versions used a mohair dare, and I picked up a beautiful variegated shades of mohair silk from Ching Fibre, and I had added them just whenever I felt like it in the MCAL. I'm not going to be doing that this year, I don't think. That's not my intention. So we'll see how it goes. But all of those had been knitted in Hall Super Soft. As you've already seen, I've now got these two half and half wraps that have been completed in Hall Super Soft, and I do think it's a very good, affordable option if you want to join in the MCAL, but you are really intimidated by some of the very expensive hand-dyed kits that are around and that are being offered right now. I think there's a way to stash dive and really go through your stash and see what you've got. And then also I think there are other companies that are providing more commercial-based yarn, but which is natural fibres, woolly wools, and can create a really beautiful shawl too. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because I'm getting all excited for MCAL season. Okay, so what's new to me? Well, not very much, I have to say. I haven't really bought anything in the last couple of weeks, but I did win something. How amazing is that? You know, you enter into all of these Instagram giveaways and, you know, I never win anything. So this is so this was a big surprise. I won a £30 gift voucher for Dystopic Fibre, who's John, who's based over in Glasgow. I had seen his yarn at the Curie Creative Bannock Yarn event back in August, and then I purchased some at Perth, which I'm not showing just now because it's a secret. But it's beautiful. I really, really love it. So I'm really excited that I get to spend my £30 voucher at his web shop, and I will share a link to that so you can go and see his beautiful colours. But I'm kind of in that lovely place, which I really enjoy, where all options are still available to me. So I haven't spent it yet, but I've narrowed it down. I'm trying to decide whether I think I do want to get some mohair. I'm wondering about getting some lovely mohair to go with some of my cones, either the British wool or from Woolyknit or the Hall Super Soft. So I think that might be where I'm going, but then I have to decide which colour, and all these colours are just so lovely. So I have yet to make my final choice, so I'm still sitting in the deliciousness of that hesitation. So that's something which is going to be new to me, so maybe I'll have that when I speak to you next time, but I will certainly show whatever I purchase. I will certainly share it with you. John is also going to be exhibiting, I think, at the Glasgow School of Yarn. I should double check that. That might not be true, but it would surprise me if he wasn't, which is actually happening on the 29th and the 30th of October, so the end of this month. I am hoping to be there, but I haven't decided which day or whether I'm going to go on both days. I haven't quite decided yet. So I haven't bought my tickets, but I will be because yeah, I haven't been to that festival before, and I'm really excited to go. So the only other things that I've bought, and these are not particularly exciting things, I have to say, but you know, as knitters, I think it's important to have good functioning tools that we like to use. We are, you know, working with our hands all the time. We're using these tools and these fibers in order to be able to really exercise our practice, and to produce beautiful things like shawls and jumpers and hats and gloves and socks and all of those things. The kind of tools, the needles that I like to use best are, for a shawl, I will use my Chiagu red laces every single time because I love the fact that the stainless steel core in the red lace doesn't hold memory, so it stays straight. When you're got a big shawl on the needles, I just really appreciate that. Or when you're going to be having a big shawl and you're not quite at that point yet, and every time you go to start a new row and your cable's all twisting in on itself, that drives me absolutely nuts. So so I love the red laces. They've got a beautiful handle, the beautiful feel in your hands. The stitches slide really well from the cable onto the needle itself, and I really like the sharp points on it because if you're doing any kind of lace work or anything, that makes it a really easy and intuitive process. For garments, I use high sharps. So I was just talking about this at Knit Night actually recently, because I don't have and never have had a set of interchangeable needles. What I do have is these. So I keep them in their packets like this, and I store them in a box so that I can then flick through them and find exactly the ones that I'm using. Because as I said, I don't have lots of whips, so therefore I don't have lots of needles dispersed throughout my project bags. So most of them sit inside this box, and I generally go for a 4-inch tip. And these are size 6mm ones. So these are the larger ones. And then I have various different lengths of cable. And again, I keep them all in these packets so that I can find them easily. So what I wanted to show you though was, in fact, I've brought through the wrong thing to show you, but so yes, they screw in, and they're super easy to assemble, and again they create this really lovely join so your stitches don't get stuck on them or anything. So the things that I bought, I picked these up from Ginger Twist, and I've been meaning to get them for absolutely ages. I've got these for the small cables, but the larger cables, which start from I think the 6mm up, they've got a broader, got a wider end on them like this. So I got these little cable stoppers because I like to use my cables like this for when it says to put your knitting on waste yarn. I just keep them on the cable, and I pop these little cable stoppers on, and then I use the points, the tips, with a different cable. And carry on. So then when I come back to it, I'm then not having to put all of my stitches off the waste yarn and back onto a cable. They're already on the cable. But the annoying thing is, of course, is that there are some tips which fit into the larger ones and ones that fit into the smaller. But now they've brought out these interchangeable tip adapters. So this is going to screw into the smaller one, but it fits a larger tip. So I'm really like this. See? So that actually makes switching from, say, like a 5 or a 5.5mm needle then to a 6. You can do that really easily. You're not having to change your whole cable. to go from a cable for a small needle to one for a big, you just add your adapter. So, like I said, it's not super exciting, but it actually creates a fluency and a fluidity to your knitting that I really appreciate, and I really like good design, and it, particularly when it pertains to making my knitting life a little easier. So that's what I bought, and then after I finish up here, recording here today, my plan is to head over to Ginger Twist because I'm going to go and pick up a copy of the new Lina magazine. I think this new Lina magazine has absolutely knocked it out the park. There are 3 designs in particular that I am really, really liking the look of. One is Autumn Forager by Jennifer Brow. And it has got this amazing kind of runched stripe design and texture, and I'm really intrigued by how they make that, how that works. So I'm pretty sure I've got things in my stash. Maybe I could even use the yarn that I frogged for the striped S-Jan. Those 2 colours would look amazing in this jumper, so maybe I could do that. And then another one is called Ginger, and that's by Yamagara, and that actually uses yarn from Ginger Twist Studio. I think it uses the DK Mass Mayhem, and it is, which is a gorgeous base. It is a Blueface Leicester Massam mix blend. It's just so soft but so woolly and so completely yummy. And the design is this incredible kind of basket weave with some cable detail, and it just looks absolutely gorgeous. So I am absolutely going to be casting that one on. And then the other one that I thought was really interesting was the Siren Shawl by Florence Sperling. And I really liked Florence Sperling's previous design, the Scout Shawl. And I think I actually have the pattern for that, but I haven't cast it on yet because it's in Tarja, and I haven't knitted in Tarja, and it's slightly scary. But that will be a project for one day. I'm not sure exactly how this new shawl is created, but I really like the look of it. So, what kind of techniques and things that are used in it, but I will need to buy the magazine to find out. So, so I'm going to go and pick myself up a copy of that, but I don't quite have it just yet. But that's what's new to me, or what will be new to me. It's really what I'm intending to make new to me rather than what is today. Which brings me to what's bringing me joy. What's bringing me joy? Well, one of the things is Advent calendar creation. Now, I know that lots of people love an Advent calendar, and I am no different. There are lots of really beautiful Advent calendars that are offered by hand dyers, and they're generally out for order kind of late spring, early summer, because of course they have to plan. You know, they have to get all their ducks in a row. They have to get all their mini skeins sorted out. They have to plan all their colours. And I mean, it's a huge, huge amount of work. I could only imagine the amount of work that goes into creating an Advent calendar. The Advent calendars that I put together are, well, I'm doing one for my mum, and I'm doing one for another podcaster. And I am trying to use up stash yarn. And so I'm having a lot of fun going through my stash and choosing yarn and winding up 20 gram balls, and going to really put that together. And so I'm finding a lot of joy in that, and it's very peaceful. So I'm basically sitting each evening with an assortment of yarns and my little scales, which I've shown you before. And I'm winding, and then I'm weighing, and then I'm winding a bit more and weighing, so that I'm trying to get approximately 20 grams for each one. And yeah, I'm just finding a lot of something very peaceful in it. maybe I need to move back to hand winding. No, I think I'm going to stick to my ball winder and my Swift. I was thinking, should I do that with the Stephen West yarn? No, I don't think so. So I will kick those up. But there is something very meditative and very peaceful actually about hand winding these little balls of yarn. and that's just bringing me a lot of joy. I've been really enjoying my podcasts again recently. Young Folks Knits, she's just such a wonderful videographer. That's the word. She has a great eye for a good shot, for lighting. She's got wonderful choices of music. You just feel that when you're watching one of her podcasts that you're absolutely engaging with a treat for the senses. So, and then of course there's all the beautiful knitting in Casey herself, who's so funny and warm and lovely. So Young Folks Knits I've been really enjoying. I also really enjoyed catching up with Mega from Skeins of Dreams. She's been doing some beautiful test knits just now that have me just desperate to cast on. In fact, the Cargill sweater was one of them, not surprisingly. It was just lovely. And she also really appreciated her last episode because she gave a little insight into her craft room and the kind of the before and the after, the tidy up, so that you can really see what a crafter space looks like. And that's my experience of having craft space too, is that, in that kind of creative process, we pull out our materials and our resources and our colours, and the creative possibilities are surrounding us. And I feel very enthused when I'm in that place, but equally I know that I also feel really good when I pulled it all together and have that all organised and everything again. So just so that I can mess it all back up again. So it was lovely to see. It was lovely to see Mega move through that process as well, and then share all about her knits. I know that she and Mel from Mel Makes Stuff and Selma from Little Big Knits are all meeting up this weekend. I think it's for the Maryland Sheep and Wolf. Is it? Maybe it's not. It's for a fibre festival. I can't remember which one it is. But they've all met up together, and I'm just so jealous because I would love to be there. So I'm sending you all much, much love, ladies. Hope you have an absolute ball. I know you will. And there'll be so much knitting and so much chat, and it will just be completely delightful. So I really hope you have a wonderful time. The other podcast I've been really enjoying is the Serenity Knitting Society. I think I've mentioned this one before. Alex is a complete delight. She's based over in Australia, and she is just at the moment doing a beautiful collaboration with Bed of Roses, Catherine of Bed of Roses, who's based over in Norway. And it's just such a perfect collaboration. The two, it's just so perfect. And Alex is so wonderfully enthusiastic and loving about everything that she's received from Bed of Roses and that she's sharing when showing with us. And she has a giveaway going as well. And I think you might still have an opportunity to go and participate in that giveaway and win a Bed of Roses gift voucher, which is very generous, I have to say. The other thing that I've been watching on YouTube, I watched the Netflix To Doom global fan event, which was, it was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I didn't quite get through all the way to the very end, but I watched enough to get me very excited about the next Stranger Things, the next Witcher. There is a Witcher spin-off that looks very good as well, because I really like that show. There's the new Enola Holmes, which looks good. There's lots of really fun new series coming out, or new episodes of old series coming out. So I think we're going to be very well met in our entertainment over the coming months. Birthday celebrations have been bringing me lots of joy. So as I mentioned, my youngest turned 21. My middle son turns 23 tomorrow, so we'll be celebrating his birthday with games and pizza and maybe a movie. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We celebrated my youngest 21st birthday last weekend, and we all went to a wonderful restaurant in Edinburgh over in Bruntsfield called the Three Birds. And we were noting actually that we have now celebrated all three of our children's 21st birthdays at the Three Birds. And every single time it has been an incredibly special evening. The level of care from the staff is always, and humour, and they're just lovely, really, really lovely people running it. Just delicious food, like so good, and they really take care over my dietary requirements. So I can't have gluten, but there was a lot of gluten. There's always a lot of gluten-free options on quite a small menu that's really seasonally focused. So I always get a meal that's completely delicious and that I feel good afterwards. Not always the case in other places, but always at the Three Birds. My daughter can't have dairy, and they work with her as well to make sure that they're putting together something. And my youngest has an allergy as well to coriander and rocket, so they also worked with him to make sure that none of that was included in the in his food too. So they were very aware and very caring, and I really appreciated that. And we had such a lovely evening. Really enjoyed it. So, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow when we're going to be celebrating my middle son's. It is my daughter's partner's birthday today, so we're also going to be celebrating him. And it's my best friend Jen's birthday tomorrow, so I'm going to be meeting up with her a little bit later on after I've picked up Lina for a little pre-birthday celebration. So I'm really looking forward to that too. All these wonderful birthdays. The other thing I wanted to share that's bringing me joy was the other week there we went to the Belfield Brewery, and I went with my friend Jen, and we also went with Jess of Ginger Twist. And the great thing about the Belfield Brewery, gosh, I'm on a gluten-free trip here, but the other great thing about the Belfield Brewery is that their beers are gluten-free. And there's not very many places that I can go that I can get gluten-free beer. I'm not a huge beer drinker, but I do quite like to have like a Pilsner or a light lager or something. So we went there, we had a lovely evening. We got one of the booths outside, and it wasn't too cold, but when it did get a little bit chilly, they've got the heat lamp that you can pop on that really warms up the whole space. And we just laughed our heads off, and we plotted and planned and chatted, and more laughter. It was a brilliant evening. So the Belfield Brewery in Edinburgh is well worth the trip. And then the last thing I was going to mention was the Glasgow School of Yarn on the 29th and the 30th, and how excited I am about it, but I've already told you that, so that's fine. So that brings us up to closing, and so I wanted to do a little reading for you, and it's something that I wrote myself quite a wee while ago, but it's something I always think of whenever I connect with this particular goddess, Amaterasu. So I'll share that with you, and then we'll close. Shine your light, shine. For too long now you've been content to live in the shadows, sitting in the back row, blending into the background, believing that this was where you belonged. But you were meant for so much more. Your voice, which you keep so small and contained, barely breaking above a whisper, was made for singing arias so sweet that the hearts of all those listening cast off their armour and melt into the loveliness of you. It was made for speaking out when others were too meek. It was made, my darling, for howling at the moon. Your body that you sometimes cannot bear to look upon, that body was made for dancing, for pleasure, for the sheer joy that fills your limbs as you run out into the wind that whistles and gusts through the harbour, past the lighthouse and out towards the sea. Your heart was made to love big, to break open, to race at the touch of your lover as they place butterfly kisses along the line of your neck, their breath settling into the hollow of your throat. Your hands were made for holding the small bodies of your children close to your chest, and they were also made to let those children go. They were made to craft beauty, express meaning. They were made so that they could lightly touch an angel's wing through the gaps in the thin places. And yes, there will be those who overlook you, who don't see you for the radiant being that you are, but that is because they don't see you clearly, the real you, the one who feels truly, loves madly, breathes deeply. But I see you, my darling. I see you. I see your beauty sparkling in your eyes. I see your kindness resting in your embrace. I see your joy dancing in the cadence of your voice. I see you, and please believe me when I tell you that you are magnificent. Shine your light. Shine. Okay, my darlings, I'll speak to you really soon. Take good care.